So as we read through, these characteristics, I want you to consider, how Jezebel might be influencing your thoughts, your emotions, the choices that you've made, and I want you to check anything that might apply to you. The first one is, perhaps you feel as if your prophetic gifts or insights are always questioned. They're not received. I mean, like I just shared, that's what I felt like. Well, don't you trust me? And why aren't you, doing something about this? Why aren't you sharing this word that I just gave you? But at the same time, it could be a perception and even a reality that they do feel a check about maybe not the revelation itself, but how you are interpreting it and how you want to apply it. So just take note that if what you are sharing in your spiritual gifts, in your intercession, in your prophecy, if you keep feeling walls, check that, because that could show enemy interference. Secondly, if you end up focusing on your supernatural gifts or encounters a lot, and again, this was something that I felt I was trying to do because I thought I needed to prove that God was speaking to me. And so I focused a lot on my dreams, on the prophetic dreams that the Lord was giving me. So if that's a focus, that you're always wanting to bring attention to your gifts, that's not healthy, because the fact is gifts are only one aspect. It's really our character and how we're walking through these things that really is the measure of our maturity. The third thing is, perhaps you adapt your conversations to put yourself in a favorable light. Maybe even changing the context or the facts from one person to another if it sounds a little better. We don't realize sometimes when we do that, and again, I fell into this because I was afraid. I was afraid I was going to be disqualified depending on who I shared something with, and so there would be times that I would share different things in a different way, not realizing that I was really picking and choosing and actually opening up the door to deception and even manipulation, which again is not healthy. The next thing has to do with our discernment in the spirit, and this really has to do with any time there is a demonic stronghold at work. When a demon is involved, it's like there's this screen door in front of us, and that demonic spirit becomes a filter. And anything that we say or do, it passes through that filter. And so anybody that's receiving it, it's going to go through that demonic spirit filter, and it's going to get twisted. Something's just going to be off, and we don't even realize it. The same thing happens on the other side. When people speak to us, it goes through that filter. By the time it reaches our ears, it's gotten twisted and contorted. And so our spiritual discernment is really off. This is why it's so important, especially as intercessors and prophetic voices, that we are clear of any kind of other filters, that we can really hear and perceive accurately what the Lord is saying. The next one is, you struggle with sexual temptations. And this has to do, with, again, the nature of the Jezebel spirit. Now, this might not look the same way on everyone. For me, it wasn't as much, overt. It actually came out more in my dreams. But there might be temptations that you have. These are probably very subconscious things that are done. But if there's any hint of that, you want to check that off. Perhaps you doubt or mock the message of holiness. Now, this again can happen when you're focusing so much on the spiritual gift and not on your character. I've seen some people, and maybe you know of some teachers and leaders in the body of Christ that have focused so much on their spiritual gift, they've exempted themselves from a standard of righteousness and holiness. And even to the point where they begin to mock it and say that's not even needed. You don't need to worry about that because we've got God's revelation here. Again, that's very dangerous. That is not God's heart. And that would be Jezebel at work. The next one is, you struggle with defilement or an unclean spirit. This is also something I've seen that attaches itself because of Jezebel. That unclean spirit, and like I said, for me it came in through dreams. If you might have dreams of just unclean things, and it's like it just comes out of nowhere. That's obviously the enemy showing up in the nighttime, but yet the Lord is saying you need to pay attention to this in that unclean spirit and defilement. Perhaps you dishonor authority behind closed doors. You might submit outwardly, but on the inside you're really criticizing. You want to check that off. And then you might want to rally others around your cause. That's Jezebel's efforts at reproducing herself, because you feel like you got to, no one's speaking up for me, so I need to win people to my side. And again, there's some manipulation there, some underhanded kinds of things that are not healthy for the body of Christ. If you feel like you're trying to build a case for yourself. Now, these additional things that I have here are actually things that happened to Elijah. And these might be some additional effects that you feel that when you're being oppressed by this spirit, or even when if you're in a system or a church body where this is in operation, because I've seen this happen too, where different members will feel these things and they're like, why do I feel this way? So let's look at some of these. A desire to run from the battle, especially when emotionally or physically tired. The desire to just get away becomes very strong. Well, this is exactly what Elijah did. I mean, he just won the battle on Mount Carmel. All it took was Jezebel to threaten him one time, and he ran. He wanted to go as far away as possible. And so if you find yourself, you're just like, I can't deal with this. I got to get away. I want to run away. You don't want to deal with it. That could be because Jezebel is in the house. Perhaps you have a desire to isolate. This spirit is going to pull you away from the body and cause you to feel alone. You just want to be by yourself. Exactly what Elijah did. He just retreated to his cave. He didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to be with anybody. And so if you find yourself pulling away, that's not healthy, because when this is going on, you need to be in the body to find healing. Perhaps you've got feelings of quitting or just depression. You don't have any strength to go on. It may even manifest physically as depression. You feel empty or void of anything spiritual. You might experience fatigue or even physical weakness. And then this again is how Elijah felt, when he was in the cave. He just wanted to give up. He was depressed. He was tired, physically exhausted. Or perhaps feeling out of control without any choice. I mean, Elijah was convinced, I'm the only one left. It's like he was hopeless. It's like there's no way out. Well, that's because Jezebel is speaking. And then lastly, as I had alluded to before, if you're dealing with sicknesses or infirmities that just continually distract you and wear you down, again, it might be because Jezebel is at work, literally trying to suck the life out of you so that you can't even fulfill your purpose in God.